Dipping into the Peacock and Williamson mailbag on this Wednesday episode, questions about the Jaguars. How real are they right now in 2022? Are we trashing the Houston Texans maybe a little too much? Is it time for them to start winning some football games now that they've got the ship righted there? Some major injuries right now in the NFL. Myles Garrett, car crash, Sterling Shepard, ACL, DJ Reader. We'll get into all of it and more on today's episode of Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock and Matt Williamson here with you. Today's episode brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Thanks everybody for making Peacock and Williamson your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're going to hit multiple teams here on today's episode, Matt. But now that we have a little better outlook for Myles Garrett, let's talk about some of the injuries in the NFL, which is, the biggest news, I think, today, this week, going into week number 4. And Myles Garrett, scary situation there, a single car accident, car flip multiple times. And really the best news possible, I think, is that his status is unclear for week 4. You're just glad everybody's alive in a crash like that. He's walked away from the injuries. He's got a shoulder injury, a biceps injury. Not really sure exactly how severe those are, but likely to miss maybe week 4. But man, walking away relatively unscathed for how bad of a crash that sounded like in a single car accident. So good news, I think, about as good a news as you could get if you're the Browns on Myles Garrett.
Yeah, of course, the most important thing is he's alive and there's no fatalities and all those things, real world stuff, It sounded as though it was wet roads, rainy conditions, an animal ran out in front of him, he swerved and ended up flipping the car. I think the car ended up being upside down, and, not to make light of the situation, but I feel like if it was me or you or listeners, would be laid up for like a month, but he's an indestructible, honestly, human being,
Myles Garrett injured the car.
Right. He hurt the road, I don't know if he's playing this week or not, though. Clowney missed last week. Needless to say, he's right there with TJ Watt, Micah Parsons, those type of guys as most important players on his team by a wide margin. They could be in trouble without him.
Some lacerations as well, broken glass and things like that. But, obviously great news about Myles Garrett. He's going to be back at some point, and who knows, he might still even be able to play this week, which would be pretty remarkable. Uncertain is the word I saw used with Myles Garrett. So it could be a week, could be a couple weeks, could be no weeks for Myles Garrett with those injuries. But I would probably think it's unlikely that he plays this week. He's so important to that Cleveland Browns defense, and the Browns right now are leading the AFC North, and so they need everything they can get. And Jacoby Brissett has to continue to play that brand of football, not make a bunch of mistakes, run the heck out of the ball, play some defense. And if you start losing big pieces like that, it does start to get a little bit more difficult for them to bridge the gap to Deshaun Watson's return.
Oh, without question. I'm just totally speculating. I'd be shocked if he practices this week. That doesn't mean he doesn't play, but I would not ask him to practice with, cuts and bruises and all those type of things all over his body. I'm guessing, but I think the Browns, they've surpassed my expectations drastically, but they're in a much better spot than I thought they would be. They barely lose that game to the Jets. They really should be 3-0 in all honesty. They're the best running game in the league. Brissett, the last 2 weeks, as well as Amari Cooper, have played very, very well. They're not easy to play against. Njoku's coming on. So if they can be in the hunt until Watson returns, and who knows how good Watson will be after 700 days of rest, but I like where they're at. I thought it'd be worse.
Sterling Shepard, man, this guy can't catch a break as far as injuries in his NFL career, and he's a really good player and just can never get right on track. And now comes back dealing with some injuries already to start this year. He's back on the field now, a torn ACL, non-contact injury. Did you see this injury, how it happened? It's one of the, like, usually guys are at least cutting he's just running down the field. Like not even, I don't think he was even part of he was expecting to get the ball or anything like that. He's just trotting down the field and falls on the ground, holds his knee. And Odell Beckham, former fellow teammate, was calling out the turf situation there in New York. And it's like, wow, these billion-dollar corporations, how can we not have grass on all of these fields? And it is scary to see something like that happen. And look, this New York turf is infamous. The Jets and the Giants play on the same turf, and there's been a ton of big injuries on that turf. I remember, I covered the 49ers closely back in 2020. The Niners in week 2 went to New York to play the Jets, and torn ACL for Nick Bosa. There was numerous injuries in this game, and it was like, wow, what the heck is going on with that turf? And those things are still continuing. So, unfortunate situation. And I'm kind of with Odell on some of this. Like, man, you've got to find a way. You make that much money, you're charging that much for tickets. You got to keep your franchise players on the football field and healthy. It's a dangerous enough sport already. If your turf is causing injuries, that's a bad thing. And opposing teams aren't going to want to come in there and play.
I know that I don't know, what good turf conditions are and what aren't. But I also know that I have very strong feelings about anything of this nature not being perfect, or at least an A or A minus. Like some are going to be better than others. Weather, Chicago's going to have a tough time maintaining a great track. But I remember when the Steelers went to Oakland at the time, I think it was, Ben got hurt. Nobody could find the X-ray machine, I
was going to bring up Oakland. They were still playing on dirt infield.
Right. Like it's unacceptable.
Yeah. It's so I'm not surprised that they had to leave town. You see what the A's are doing there in Oakland. That same, like if you can't build a stadium, like you got to go somewhere else. That's why the Raiders are in Las Vegas there. And what are the Raiders' new state-of-the-art facility in Las Vegas? What do? You roll the turf out, get some Nevada sun on it. Right. Yeah. And then roll the real grass back in. And so I love what they're doing there. I think the New York Giants and Jets, 2 franchises combined on that one could have figured something out. And it's just no excuse for bad turf in this stage in the NFL.
Any kind of field or game day conditions to me that are subpar should be a massive fine by the league, to be honest with you. That's worse than Calvin Ridley betting on sports or things like that, or even the tampering stuff. It ruins careers. Like the vet back in the day was like playing on cement, they say.
They would show the camera view from the ground and you could see it like ripple. It was so bad. And who was the receiver back in the day for the Eagles who jumped up to catch a pass in the middle of the game and blew out both knees at the same time?
Wow. Was it Mike Quick or one of like that era? Someone in the 80s or somebody like that. Yeah.
It was like early 90s maybe.
But speaking of receiver injuries, real quick on Shepard, he's the most cursed member of the most cursed position group in the whole league, I think. Like if you're a Giants receiver, sorry, you're out of luck, man. It's haunted.
Yeah, what's going on there?
It's all every year.
The turf is part of it.
Maybe.
Also, bad news for DJ Reader. The Bengals aren't really having a lot of luck to start this 2022 season. DJ Reader, the nose tackle, space eater inside, and it looks like a knee injury. Indefinitely is the word I saw, which means probably done for the year, right?
Yeah, and obviously I pay more attention to this division. I just raved about where the Browns are at. The Bengals are still a little worrisome. I don't know that they've turned this corner and they're a Super Bowl type team again. You mentioned it off the air. Yards per play, they're last in the league on offense. Last. There's no excuse for that. We just did a long stretch. I wrote an article about all the bad offenses in the league. Cincinnati should not be one of them. They've been carried by their defense. And I think most people look at Hendrickson and Bates, who are excellent players, as the best Bengals defensive player. I honestly think it's Reader. He is a full-grown man. He does all the nose tackle-ish stuff, but he also just throws people around and gets in the backfield and pushes the pocket. That's a big loss. To me, that's the last guy they could afford to lose maybe on defense.
Tough times for the Cincinnati Bengals. Can they climb out of that? It is a division that is going to be competitive, no doubt, through 17 weeks. So it's going to be fun to watch there. You referenced where the Bengals were at. The next team up, 31st in the NFL. We'll get to that team next as part of our Mailbag here on this Wednesday episode of Peacock and Williamson. But first, we got to let the folks out there know about LinkedIn jobs. As you gear up for fall, as you gear up for winter, and then the new year, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier for you to find the right people you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond of the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job to the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile and spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and eventually hire. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering high-quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week, nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Matt, let's go to the YouTube comments here. And we teased there the 31st team in yards per play, the 32nd team. Surprisingly, I was kind of blown away when I looked at this because I was trying to figure out where the Houston Texans were. And lo and behold, they weren't last. It was the Cincinnati Bengals that are last at 4.6 yards per play. Just ahead of them is
unacceptable.
The Houston Texans at 4.7 yards per play. And Winston says, every time I think you guys are going to give the Texans credit, y'all are just like, yeah, the other team is going to win. And Winston, I feel your pain. I understand where you're at. But that's just the reality of the situation we're in. And there's not a lot to look for with this Houston Texans team. I tried to before the podcast today. I was like, find out. I was like, okay, well, their overall output isn't great. So maybe is yards per play better? And no, it's not better. They're second worst in the entire league yards per play basis. There was a lot of hope for Davis Mills coming into the year, right, Matt? And he's not looking great either. And you can't put it all on the quarterback, but they made a coaching change. He's playing worse statistically than he did as a rookie last year. Sub 60% passing right now, 57.9%. His QBR is 27.1, 3 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. So it's not efficient. It's not high volume, not scoring a lot of points. They've only scored 49 points so far on the season, which is bottom 5 in the league. Basically every offensive metric you can find, they're a bottom 5 offense in the league. And I don't know if Davis Mills is so good that you still think he's going to be a guy who's going to raise the level of that team. And obviously he still needs more help, but that's the thing. This team, maybe you look at it and you're like, okay, they were a disaster a couple years ago. Maybe they're going in the right direction, but there's still a long way to go from here to being competitive. And if you don't believe me, you don't believe the numbers, you don't believe Matt, do you believe the bettors who have skin in the game? Are they going to be favored in any game this year? Probably not. It's the reality of the situation, Winston, unfortunately. So I probably won't be picking the Houston Texans much at all this year unless they show something completely different than they've shown this year.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Winston, you're right. I mean, I guess they are the default team where maybe you do say a couple good things about them, but then you pick the other team, every week. I mean, it seems like that's the one that you would do that. I mean, if they played the Jets or Bears or whomever, that's the answer, I think. Many times this offseason, I said things like, Davis Mills to me looks like he's over the hump. He looks like he's a starting quarterback. He should last in this league mostly as a starter. Starting to rethink that a little bit. I mean, I think he is not an elevator. He's struggled through these 3 weeks. He obviously has a long rope. There's nobody else to push him. He's going to start the rest of the season. But when they pick very early in the draft, I think quarterback has to be at play. Some good news, I guess. I mean, Winston, let's at least not talk negative. I mean, Damien Pierce could win Rookie of the Year. I mean, Stingley and Petrie look like keepers. Yeah, right. Those two guys in secondary are legit.
On the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, and actually their defense is probably the saving grace here. There've been some low-scoring games, so teams haven't scored a lot, needed to score a lot to beat them. They played to a tie in week 1, which is like their best game of the year is they played even to a tie and didn't win that one. Only one team has a worse record in the entire NFL than the Houston Texans. And I like some pieces. There's not there yet. There's no reason to pick the Houston Texans, unfortunately, even though there's some things to like about it. But I think they nailed the Petrie pick for sure. And I like what they did in the draft this year. So again, head in the right direction, but still that's a long road.
Slow. Like the Jags, I think we're going to end up talking about the Jags at some point. Jags and Houston have been not only bottom feeders of their division for the last several handful of years, but also the whole league. Well, the Jags have made some progress, and you pick early, they could look at Jacksonville and say maybe we're a year behind their curve, but it doesn't quite feel like it. I mean,
and with the Jaguars, they've still got the better quarterback with the higher upside, who played maybe his best game of his pro career. As the Jaguars, by the way, lead their division in the AFC South. The question on Twitter was, have the Jaguars defense surprised you, Matt? Because they've spent a lot of resources recently on that side of the ball too, and their number 1 overall pick that a lot of people weren't really excited about, who's probably Trevon Walker's probably been the least talked about number 1 overall pick in NFL draft history, or at least in modern
Aaron
history.
Fisher, yeah,
right, yeah. But he's good, and he's played really well, and it's helped that defense take an extra step. And my goodness, how bad were the Jaguars coached last year? That's obviously helped everybody on the entire roster play better, just because they have a real professional coaching staff now.
That's obvious. I think they're clearly the best team in that division. They're very good on both sides of the ball. I like both. I like their big people on both sides of the ball. To focus on the defense, where the question was, their front 7 is massive. I mean, they're all, the GM. They're long arm, physical freak velociraptors that are just versatile specimens. Allen and Walker. There's not many of those people in the league, let alone on the planet. I mentioned rookie of the year for Pierce, possibly. A guy we haven't brought up who's been tremendous is Lloyd, the linebacker. I mean, he is a prototypical long, athletic plug and play linebacker, which is really rare for rookies to come in and be successful right off the bat. That front 7 is nasty.
They've got a lot of get off the bus first guys there. Lloyd just looks like a stud in a uniform. You see that, he's like, okay, well, he looks like a first round pick. Trevon Walker seemed like, that guy looks like a first round pick. And they've got a lot of those guys on that side of the ball. Josh Allen's been that for a couple of years, but starting to put that together, and you start adding to each level of the defense. And they in previous seasons had spent a lot on the back end, and so having a better front 7 helps the back end as well. So the defense is playing well, the offense is playing a lot better, coached a lot better. You're seeing that progression from Trevor Lawrence, the number 1 overall pick in last year's draft. And how about this? The Jacksonville Jaguars are not only the number 1 team in point differential in their division, they're the only team with a positive point differential in their division. In fact, the Texans are second at -10. That's the closest team is the Houston Texans, actually, at -10 points on the season. The Jaguars are +46 in 3 games, which is second most in the entire NFL to the Buffalo Bills that are +53.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to forget, but how did they lose to Washington in week 1? I think they would destroy the Commanders right now. I mean, maybe it's just a new thing, new coach, first game, all those things, but they're playing really well. Jags-Eagles is going to be as good a game as we get this weekend. That's tremendous. And the other thing is, we mentioned some of their early picks that are, when you pick the top of draft, you should get some freaky dudes. Well, it used to be those freaky dudes would end up being Jalen Ramsey playing for the Rams, or, now you got to keep them. That's been a problem for this team.
It's hilarious now. In a couple of weeks, week 5, the Jaguars are going to play the Houston Texans, and watch, I bet the Texans beat the Jaguars and just throw us on our ear, which is what the NFL tends to do. You think the temperature in the NFL, wait a week, and next Sunday is going to surprise you. So that's the way this season has gone so far. It's the way a lot of seasons go. I think the early going this year may be a little bit wilder than some years we've seen, and every team is 2-1 or 1-2 in the NFL, except for the Texans, the Dolphins, the Eagles.
Raiders are 0-3. Right? Yeah,
that's it.
You're right.
Yeah. So who knows what the next week 4 will bring.
And you're right. I mean, Houston will beat them 10-0 or something, and I'll ask you, hey, BP, can you go back and delete the whole entire podcast from September 28th for me, please?
By the way, so the Jaguars, the next 2 weeks, they have the Eagles, and then they have the Texans. So let's say the Texans go on a winning streak and are 2-1 in 2 more weeks. The Jaguars lose both those games. Well, now guess what? Houston Texans, first place in the AFC South.
Wow, that is a glass half full way of looking at things
There you go,
for our
Winston.
buddy Winston. Yeah.
There you go. That's I think the most positive spin I can put on this for the Texans right now.
Oh, that's as positive as you can get. Oh yeah, they just go on a winning streak. You just threw Texans and winning streak in the same sentence. Okay.
Oh, goodness gracious. All right. So we've got questions on. So you mentioned the Davis Mills quarterback thing, and I think that's a big decision that a lot of teams are going to have to make, and looking like a pretty good quarterback class upcoming in the 2023 draft. There's a good question in here about your Pittsburgh Steelers, Matt. And what if the Steelers, who might not have the greatest season this year, let's say the Steelers are picking in the top half of the first round, is quarterback out of the question for the Steelers? We'll get to that next, and a question about the fantasy universe and if wide receivers have finally passed up running backs at the top of your fantasy drafts next. But first, I want to thank everybody for making Peacock and Williamson your first listen once again here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For your second listen after Peacock and Williamson, make sure you're checking out everything else going on in the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team is covered here every day. Locked On NFL, the Locked On NFL channel is where you can find Peacock and Williamson on YouTube. Locked On Fantasy, Locked On Dynasty, starring one Matt Williamson, Locked On NFL Draft. If it's about the NFL, it's about the entire sports world. Your team is covered, and we've got it all covered for you right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Okay, going to the Twitter questions here. Love the show so much. Okay, doomsday scenario. The Steelers have a chance to draft one of the top 3 quarterbacks next year with a higher ceiling than Pickett. Would you do it or focus on other needs, Matt?
It seems we're getting a little ahead of ourselves on this one. I mean, 99.9% of the Kenny Pickett questions I get are, why the heck is he not in the game yet? Or is it time to put him in? Is he ready? So I think we'd have to see him play. I mean, I'm not avoiding the question, because if someone emerges as a Lawrence-like prospect, a Luck-like prospect, I think you take them almost no matter what team you are. But I know I'm a homer. I mean, I don't run from that. But the Steelers are going to pick first overall. Like, right. Tomlin's going to win one game this year. Like, that just doesn't happen. I mean, they're going to, like you said, they'll probably pick somewhere between 10 and 15. Are they going to trade the franchise in the world to go get up to 1 or 2? I can't envision that scenario. But let me throw this back at you, BP. I mean, what if I think we already talked about the Texans. Another news nugget is Wilson's going to be starting for the Jets. What if it's the Bears or the Jets? Recently high drafted guy that we've got a little more data to look at than Pickett. Do they go for a stud, player, a stud quarterback? If you're like Field or the Bears or the Jets or a team like that, maybe.
No, it's a really good question. You mentioned, if you see enough out of Pickett, and first of all, you got to see him on the field, and you kind of got to know where it's at. But if it's generational, you're right. Like the Indianapolis Colts moved on from Peyton Manning.
Right. Right? Perfect example. Right.
They drafted Andrew Luck because they had to. There was no other way around it. They had to make that pick. The Jaguars needed a quarterback, so it worked out perfect for them. But I think a lot of teams would have drafted Trevor Lawrence. If Trevor Lawrence was in the upcoming draft and you're the Steelers, you draft him.
You draft them, right?
You are the Bears, and it comes down to, okay, do we roll again with Justin Fields from what we've seen? And we haven't seen what we want to see yet, and I think that's probably accurate as far as right now. Bad game last week for Justin Fields. Doesn't have a lot of help, clearly, but you still got to see something more, I think, than what he's shown so far. But do you just go back to Ohio State and draft C.J. Stroud? Stroud's not a better prospect coming out than Justin Fields was. So do you
not to me as it stands in late September,
right? So that's tough. And I don't know. Usually, when there's that generational guy, about it in advance. We knew about Luck. We knew about Trevor Lawrence years before they're actually even eligible to be in the draft. So I don't envision that type of player being there, and I don't envision the Steelers being high enough to take that. So I would be shocked if the Steelers drafted a quarterback unless they've seen enough from Pickett to be like, oh, well, he's not it, so let's go another direction, in which case you kind of have to. But that's kind of the it's the
It would
double-edged
blow me
sword.
away if it's the Steelers.
Yes, absolutely. It's a double-edged sword when you are a team with a quarterback that's like, oh, he's good. What can he be at his ceiling? And Davis Mills would fit that, right? Do you not draft a quarterback because you have Davis Mills? I don't think so. If you think you have a better quarterback. And if you're the Steelers, if you think that quarterback's there, you have to take him. But is that quarterback going to be there? And it's going to be clearly better than Pickett. And Pickett could probably shut a lot of that up if he comes in and plays a little bit this year and plays well, which I think he might. And I think they're making sure that they're waiting for the right time to do that. That's best for him. A clear time to allow him to be as good as possible for the Steelers. So we'll see what that is. I would say very unlikely there. And another lesson is you're talking about the top 3 quarterbacks like they're going to be good. Let's go back to 2021. 5 quarterbacks in the first round. It's like, hey, man, look at all these quarterbacks. They're all amazing. What a generational year for quarterbacks. None of them are good yet, except for Trevor Lawrence. Kind of played pretty good last week, but we didn't really know what he was going to be yet coming into this year either. So 4 out of 5.
High bust rate, yeah.
4 out of 5 might be bad. So what are you even getting just because you're drafting one of the top 3 QBs? Like there's not 3 good quarterbacks every year. That doesn't happen. There's still, after all these quarterbacks and all these drafts, there's like 10 good ones in the NFL. They're like, oh God, these guys are good.
Oh yeah. And I am in favor of keep going back to the well to get your Josh Allen or whoever, I mean, obviously that is a massive competitive advantage, but boy, I have a hard time imagining Fields having such a bad offseason that the pick isn't the best offensive lineman available or the best receiver available or trade down and get 5 good things for him. I mean, Wilson, on the other hand, I kind of feel like he's got about a dozen games here to show if he's legit or not. That's just my hunch.
How about this one? Las Vegas Raiders currently on pace to have that number 1 overall pick in the 2023 draft. Did they they trade that? Which first rounders did they trade for?
Does Green Bay own that one? I think so. Hadn't thought about that.
Wait, did they trade 2 firsts or 1 first? Now I can't remember what the trade was for Devontae Adams. Oh my God, that would be the biggest disaster trade ever if the Las Vegas Raiders ended up with the number 1 pick in the draft and traded it away.
Could you imagine Green Bay picking first overall?
I'm looking now. No. Okay,
the
Raiders do own that pick still.
Yes, I just pulled it up as well. I had to double check. I would have guessed for sure that Green Bay owned it. I don't think. And so that craziness aside, I don't think the Raiders are going to end up with the top 5, top 8 pick. I mean, I think they're going to win some games, be in that neighborhood I talked about with the Steelers, probably pick somewhere between like 10 and 15. But their season's in desperate trouble.
So the Packers got the first last year, 22 overall, and second round pick last year, number 53 overall. So first and a second is what it was. Was there not? I could have swore there was 2 firsts for Devontae Adams.
I thought so too, but that's not what I'm reading here. So yeah, I'm going to believe it.
Yep, I'm going to believe that as well. So New Orleans doesn't have a first. Philly has that one, and the 49ers don't have a first. Miami has that one, which are both looking like top 10 picks too, which is another one. What about the Niners? They don't even have a pick to answer that question. What if, there's so much unknown with Trey Lance, but they traded away so many firsts that they still don't have one. Miami might have a top 10 pick if the Niners season is a disaster. So,
yeah. So I almost brought up the Niners, but I knew they didn't have a first round pick. I didn't want to lump them with the Bears and Jets because they don't have the same resources.
Yeah. But just remember, and we've got to remind ourselves of this, those top 3 quarterbacks that we're talking about, whatever it ends up being, those first round guys, it's almost a better chance they're bad than good at quarterback. Like that's,
and a lot of it depends where they land.
You look back at 2018 was the same way. Baker, no. Sam Darnold, no. Josh Allen, great.
Daniel
Josh
Jones,
Rosen, no.
Right.
Jones, yeah.
Some of these other recent high picks.
Yeah.
It's about 50-50 at best.
At best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think I would, especially with Fields, I think I would stick with what I know.
I would too right now, but if there's 14 more weeks of what I saw last week and you think a guy's there, maybe avoid Ohio State. Like, I don't know.
I mean, Haskins wasn't great either.
That's going to be part of that's going to be part of Stroud's scouting report, I bet.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, you got great guys blocking for you, and
Yeah.
it's a little easier to play there.
Insane receivers. All right. Plenty more draft coming up in the wintertime, but we've got a week 4 slate to break down tomorrow for you right here. Peacock and Williamson.